Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, or Godzilla Monster Planet as it's also called, is another Godzilla movie, an animated Godzilla movie that came out on Netflix back in January, I think. It's a shame that a big Godzilla superfan like me hasn't had a chance to watch this movie until now, but I recently watched it and now I want to talk about it. It is the 30th Godzilla film that has been produced by Toho Animation. That is relationship goals if I have ever seen one. I'm not even going to bother to try to pronounce the names of the voice actors or the director or the screenplay writer or anybody who created this movie. So instead, we're going to have a moment. Yeah, I apologize, people, but if I had tried to pronounce your names, I would have butchered you, and I would have brought shame to the entire country of Japan. So in Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, there's a whole bunch of kaiju that break out on Earth, like huge, ferocious-looking monsters, and then Godzilla himself shows up. And Godzilla in this movie, he lives up to the king of the monsters' name. He basically slaughters all the other monsters, and then he slaughters most of the human race. In fact, he destroys pretty much the entire planet. There's a select group of human beings that develop some technology that are able to get away from Earth. They get in this big ship and they just take the fuck off because they don't want to deal with Godzilla and all his bullshit. So they travel in space for a while. I think it's 22 years or some shit like that. And then they basically are like, okay, we can't survive out here in space anymore. We have to go back to Earth. We have to try to get our planet back. What's 22 years for them in space? It's actually been thousands of years on Earth. And so when they go back, Earth has changed, it's different, and guess what? Godzilla is still a dick, and he is still there. So they have to formulate a strategy to try to take out Godzilla, and obviously that's easier said than done. For those of you who don't know, I am a huge Godzilla fan. Godzilla is one of the biggest parts of my childhood. Godzilla and Superman basically led me to having my first friend. My first real friendship was because of Godzilla and Superman, and it is a friendship that I still have to this day. Me and my best friend, we were united over Godzilla, Superman, and ass. Don't ask why 5-year-olds were interested in ass at that young age. Just don't ask. So let's talk about Godzilla himself in this movie. First of all, his animation took some getting used to. I'm not gonna lie, his animation, he looks all huge and rocky. He looks like a gigantic rock orgy. In this film, he looks like a whole bunch of boulders got together and just were like, hey, let's bang! Don't get mad at me, people. I'm just telling you what I saw. After I got over that, I gotta say, I love the animation for Godzilla. It grows on you the longer you watch the movie. I gotta say, Godzilla kicks a ton of ass in this movie. Seriously, you have never seen Godzilla this OP, this unstoppable, this big. Godzilla from 2014 in the legendary Pictures Godzilla movie that came out in theaters, that Godzilla was huge, okay? He was a beefcake. He was 350 feet tall. This Godzilla makes that Godzilla look like a bug from A Bug's Life. I'm not kidding. This Godzilla was damn near omnipotent. He was basically, here's what they did. They took Godzilla, already the most OP monster in the history of monsters, and then they gave him Superman powers, mixed with Goku Ultra Instinct powers, mixed with the booty injections of Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. I mean, come on. That's a hell of a mix. I also love the world that was created around Godzilla. There's some interesting stuff they do with the Godzilla lore in this film. For starters, Earth, when they go back to Earth and you see how much Earth has changed, and a lot of that is due to Godzilla in some ways that I really can't spoil for you. It's fascinating to see Godzilla's powers and see Godzilla and the way he affects the environment and some of the other things that came about because of Godzilla's presence on Earth. Apparently this is the first part in a trilogy, and so there are some things that they can tease but they can't really tell you about, and that's both interesting and it's also frustrating. It's interesting because there's a whole bunch of questions I had after this movie where I was like, okay, I want to know more about this and I want to know more about that and I want to see more of that in the next movie. It's also frustrating because you're kind of like, we don't get those answers in this movie. You got to kind of wait until May because that's when the second movie comes out. This movie also has some kick-ass computer animated fights. I mean, when they throw down with Godzilla, pretty much the entire third act of this movie is non-stop action. I gotta say, not only is it really emotional, it's also some really badass stuff. Not only is Godzilla being a badass, but then you see the humans and the people that are trying to win their Earth back. They're pretty badass too. I love the battle sequences in this film. Some of the best battle sequences that I've seen in any Godzilla movie, animated or otherwise. It does have some problems. There are some huge pacing, no pun intended, that's kind of funny, but there's huge pacing issues in this film. The first two acts of this movie move at kind of a glacial pace, and I understand that there's a lot of things they need to set up, and there's a lot of exposition, and anytime you have anime or animated series of any kind or a movie or something like this, you're gonna have exposition, you're gonna have characters that have to explain things, but I felt like for the first 2 acts, that's really all that happened. I'm good with a slow burn build up to Godzilla, I just wish that the filler in the meantime was more interesting. We get a lot of scenes of people on ships or people on Earth walking around and explaining things to the audience, and I'm not gonna lie, that shit got really boring. It might have helped if the characters were a little bit more dynamic and interesting, but sadly to say, that's the other big problem with this movie, is that they didn't do a good job setting up interesting characters. The main character of the movie, yeah, he's really pissed and he's obsessed with killing Godzilla almost to a suicidal degree. I don't even really remember what the other characters in the movie were like when they weren't shouting, you know, kill Godzilla, save us, blah, 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 blah. The point is, I think the movie could have done a better job at fleshing out his characters, giving me something to be a little bit more invested in besides Godzilla kicking everybody's ass. I understand that that's what you go to this movie for, but I'm just saying, you spend 2/3 of the movie not focused on that, so I have to direct my attention to what the movie's trying to show me, and the movie showed me a whole bunch of boring scenes. And I really dug this Godzilla movie. I think it's got kick-ass animation and battle sequences. I think Godzilla himself is a badass, bigger than you've ever seen. I think everything that was set up and all the hints and teases that were drawn in this movie, I think that stuff is really going to pay off in part 2. But as it stands, some of that stuff limited this movie for what it could have been. So I'm not going to say that Godzilla Planet of the Monsters is great. It falls right under that. I'm going to put it in the Man of Steel Silver Age category. Guys, those are my thoughts on Godzilla Planet of Monsters. Like I said, it's on Netflix. You should get on Netflix and check it out. Part 2 comes out May 18th, I think. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show. And as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!